Okay, welcome to this screencast where we will discuss the application of three motivational theories and their relevance to video game design. My name is Jackson Miller, and I'm excited to share with you today. We're going to examine three prominent theories. The first is flow theory. The next is the ARCS model of motivation. We'll also talk about the concept of intrinsic motivation, which is included within this model. And then we're going to take a look at self-determination theory as well. First, I want to discuss flow theory. As an occupational therapist by trade, I am trained to identify what is meaningful to clients and what motivates them in order to produce the best recovery outcome. Flow theory is something that I utilize in rehabilitation, but I've never really considered its application within the video game realm. So I was excited to dive into this more. Broadly, flow theory is a positive psychological state where the individual gets so involved in some type of purposeful, goal-driven activity that nothing else in the world seems to matter. So if you've ever heard someone say, I am in flow right now, or they're so in flow right now. This is the concept that they're referring to. So, flow is that state of complete enjoyment, bliss, satisfaction, engagement, complete concentration. To achieve a state of flow, whatever activity you're doing, it must be reaching a happy medium of both challenge and skill. So, in relation to video games, if a task or level is too challenging, then it would lead to frustration. Okay. Um, if the task requires little skill, then it may be too boring. Okay. And so, therefore, we have to find the happy medium where players are challenged enough to feel sustained, but also successful and skillful in what they're doing. Um, And so in flow theory, this happy medium is called the flow channel. And so this is where you want that activity to fall for optimal engagement. In occupational therapy, we call this the just right challenge. So similar kind of concept. Speaking from my own experience, having played video games for a long time, I've played games where I was so engaged, I got lost in time. And played for 12 hours straight and then realized, gosh, it's 2 or 3 in the morning. I need to go to bed, right? But I was just so involved and focused on this game. It's all I wanted to do, right? While other games, I've played for 10 minutes and then quit either because it was too boring or it was too challenging and frustrating and it caused me to quit, right? So when designing these gameplay experiences, we have to provide um, just the right balance of challenge and skill to keep players in that flow channel. All right, that's flow theory. Now let's consider the ARCS model of motivation. ARCS is an acronym. Um, it stands for attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. And so these are four overlapping domains, and they all interact with each other and contribute to the concept of student motivation. So within each domain, there are tangible components that further define each domain to make it measurable and achievable, which is one of the unique um, aspects of this model, right? It's more measurable. I'm not going to dive into each of these tiny little components because you could talk about this model for an hour, but I do want to walk through each of these domains and just apply them to video game design. So let's start with attention, thinking about how do we get the player's attention. So one way to get attention is, and sustain attention could be through the development of a thorough storyline in the game that maybe encourages the player to persist to complete all aspects of the story. Other attention grabbers could be things like appealing graphics, animation, gameplay, mechanics, anything that gives players that wow factor. Okay, so that's attention. Next, let's look at relevance. So, how can we make a game relevant to the player? One way to increase relevance is to provide the character with choices. Um, to kind of choose their own destiny and give them a sense of control and agency over the gameplay. Okay, other ways that you could provide relevance would be to allow customization options within the game in relation to the player, environment, and gameplay experiences. I included that image of that sword there, so maybe they get to customize their sword or customize their character, right? Makes it more relevant to them. And then finally, implementation of different gameplay components that might be relevant to the player's interests and cultural background may also be useful for relevance. Now let's look at confidence. So how do we increase a player's confidence in the gameplay? When I think of the concept of confidence, my mind immediately thinks about progression of challenge within games. So in most games, as the player progresses through levels or progresses through the story, the game becomes progressively more difficult. So this gradual progression is purposeful because it allows the player to experience small accomplishments, right, that build up their confidence and their ability to complete the more difficult components of the game. Some games even begin with the tutorial that they have to complete before they're allowed to move on to build confidence before there's any risk involved in the gameplay. Okay. Finally, let's look here at satisfaction. So what promotes satisfaction in gameplay? Well, for me, satisfaction comes from a sense of accomplishment by completing the challenges in the game. Other forms of satisfaction could come from different or various in-game awards or rewards, right? So this could be through offering skins to customize your player, unlocking new areas of the game to explore, or new levels to play, or receiving some type of in-game currency. These could all promote satisfaction. And so they might get, some type of trophy or award or gold or currency, something like that. All right, so that's the ARCS model. Now that we've covered ARCS, I want to explore our last motivational theory, which is self-determination theory. Self-determination theory examines an individual's type of motivation rather than how motivated they are. So there are two overarching types of motivation you can see here. The first is controlled motivation, and the next is autonomous motivation. So with controlled motivation, someone is doing something because they feel pressured, obligated, or demanded to do it. So I'm doing this because I have to do it. This is more of a coercive negative form of motivation. Within gameplay, controlled motivation could manifest as some type of undesirable activity or task that the player has to complete in order to continue progressing in the game. They are doing it because they must, not because they want to. Okay. On the other hand, there is autonomous motivation, and that's where the player has a full sense of interest, enjoyment, and value in their gameplay, right? They're playing the game and completing all of the components on their own volition, right? So autonomous motivation can be intrinsic, okay? And intrinsic is that the motivation comes from within. So it's something that they're interested in. It's something that they want to do because it's important to them. Okay. It can also be extrinsic. Okay. And so extrinsic motivation is something that someone is motivated to do because they'll get rewarded for it. Okay. Both of these types of motivation can be beneficial in video game design. And so, according to self-determination theory, people have three basic psychological needs. Okay. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And so by designing gameplay to increase a player's autonomy, competence, and relatedness, we can increase their autonomous motivation and their intrinsic motivation for the game. And so in the realm of video game design, this means creating experiences that fulfill these needs, such as giving players meaningful choices and challenges, providing opportunities for skill mastery within the game, and then finally facilitating social connections with other players. So ultimately, each of these theories, flow theory, ARC's model of motivation, and self-determination theory, offer similar but unique views of human motivation. And so by utilizing all these different theoretical perspectives in instructional design and video games, we can challenge, engage, and empower players to increase their motivation. And that's it. Thank you for joining me today.